welcome everyone to the first annual Actors Forum. We have two of my favorite Dhar Mann actors here. Could you please introduce both of yourselves and who you are and what you do?
I guess I'll go first. I'm Angelina Koerner. I'm an actress. I sing, I dance, model here and there. As of recently, I've been screenwriting, so that's me. You might know me from Dhar Mann.
Hey guys, my name is Callie Walker, and I'm an actress and a voiceover artist, and you have probably seen me in Dhar Mann as well.
Yep, love both your episodes and really appreciate you showing up here. Um, can each of you just let everyone know who you're, like, give us a little bit background of who you are and how you got involved in acting? We'll start with you, Callie.
Well, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and growing up, I really wasn't into arts or anything creative at all. I was big into school and I was big into sports. I did a few school theater productions and I thought it was fun, but it just wasn't, you know, it wasn't something I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. I wanted to be a lawyer. But I randomly changed my mind in high school. I decided to go to a boarding arts school called the Idlewild Arts Academy out near LA. And I majored in film production. So I learned both the behind the camera side of things and got to act in some of my friends' films and get some experience in front of the camera. And the day I graduated from there, I moved to LA and just haven't looked back. I've been working on Dhar Mann and other projects ever since.
Well, I know that you have, I know that you got into Dhar Mann somehow. I've talked to a few others and you saw an advertisement and you signed up for it. How did it work for you?
So I saw an audition on Actors Access, which is a casting website, and I auditioned for the Stranger Things episode. Um, and I didn't hear back for a long time, but they reached out to me to ask me if I wanted to work on a different episode. And I said sure. And a few months later, I found out that they never ended up filming that Stranger Things episode, and I got to do that one as well.
Oh, you could have been in an episode of Stranger Things if they had filmed it.
Dhar Mann
Wow.
Stranger Things. They did
Oh, Dhar Mann Stranger Things. Ah, you would have been able to meet Millie, what's her name?
Millie Bobby Brown. Yeah,
Millie
I
Bobby
think
Brown.
she's a little bit out of Dhar Mann's budget.
And how about you, Angelina? Oh, sorry. Introduce yourself. No. How about you, Angelina? Give a little bit of background of who you are and.
Well, I'm Angelina Koerner. I grew up in Riverside, California. I have been acting since I could walk, basically. I was named after Angelina Jolie, so it's like just kind of in my blood, I guess. I grew up doing musical theater for the most part, and then when I turned 12, my mom thought that was an appropriate age to catapult me into the industry of TV and film. And I've been going out to Los Angeles since then, just taking classes and auditioning.
And you've been in several top Dhar Mann episodes.
Yeah, a few.
That's awesome. I'm not sure if you and Callie have been in one together. Not
Yeah,
sure.
Just one.
Which one?
guy
What's
dates
it
four
called?
girls at the same school, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
It's me, Angelina, and Vanessa Nottingham found out that we were all being triple timed by the same guy. And so we met this new girl, played by Logan Rowe, and we turned her into like a combination of all the things that he liked most about the three of us to make him like fall in love with her immediately, so that we could use her to break his heart. And then she ended up actually falling in love with him and not going through with the plan. So we had to like figure out a new plan to get our revenge on him.
And that episode where you're beating up on that other cheerleader too at the beginning, where you're just beating her down, is because you were abused by your father.
Right. I do remember that one. That was a fun one.
That was quite an episode, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so I want to talk about character development as the first thing. Now, how do actors build a character from the page to performance? How does it work for both of you? Callie, you want to go first?
Build a character from the page to perform it. I mean, I think everybody has their own very personal method. I think for me, I've always loved psychology. I think you read it through in its entirety. You start out by reading all of the material that they give you. If you're lucky enough to get the entire script at the start of the audition process, go ahead and read that. Try to get as much context about the character, their life, why they act the way they do. Try to figure out what would be motivating their behavior and what their relationships are like. And then you just do your best to make sense of the dialogue and the way that that represents all of those things. And sometimes you're not lucky enough to be told all of those things outright, so you have to kind of read between the lines and build backwards from the dialogue.
So, how about you, Angelina? How would you build a character from the page to performance?
I really like to start with the character breakdown, the essential traits. I'll go read between the lines in the dialogue. I like to make playlists, songs I think the character would listen to. Another exercise I do is journaling in the mind of said character. If I really am lacking context clues, I will use what I'm given and I'll journal about whatever situation I'm performing, and that helps to get a better grip on what you're performing if you lack an entire script or if they're being very vague with who your character is. You can do that. That's helpful.
Now, I know from a few others they said that they have received the script this before you're supposed, like you get it today, you get it tonight, and then you have to do it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's unfortunately pretty common. After the strike, they put regulations in place about the minimum amount of time that they can give you for an audition and the maximum amount of pages they can give you in a certain time frame. Um, but there's ways around that, and it's still pretty crazy, honestly.
So when you and Angelina were in the same episode, did you get together and work on your parts? Was it like a table read, or how did that work for both of you so that you both become the character you're supposed to?
Who directed that episode? Do you remember, Angelina?
Carlos.
Carlos?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm sure we probably sat down and talked about each scene before we did it. He likes to do that. I
Yeah,
think that was
we'll
the
kind
first
of
time we
sit.
met, though.
Yeah, we hadn't met prior to that. We would sit like in a circle before the actual scene, read it through, kind of go through the blocking, and then just go in and shoot it. That's kind of it.
It's fun to be in front of the camera. How does it make it like you don't want to take your character home with you, like method acting? Like Callie, you were the one that was abused by your dad character, but then you started hitting on the cheerleader. What made you not take that character home with you? So you start beating up on your family members. Oh, sorry, that's not me.
Well, the law, first of all. But something people might not know about me, I have been clerking for the district attorney's office for almost 2 years now, prosecuting sex
Mhm.
crimes, primarily child sex crimes. So I feel like I have a lot of experience in separating my work mentally from my personal life and my home life, and techniques to not let that bleed into my psyche because, you
Wow.
know, if that sounds hard in acting, it's a lot harder in child sex crimes.
Wow.
Um, I recently read this really great book called Trauma Stewardship,
Oh,
about people who work in fields where they have to deal with a lot of vicarious trauma, so absorb other people's trauma secondhand, and techniques for working through that. And I definitely recommend that for anyone who has a job like that. I think acting can be like that in a way, but I think I've had a lot of practice.
and what are your thoughts on that?
I think in regard to Dhar Mann, you don't spend a whole lot of time with these characters, so if even if you tried, it's really hard to take them home with you because you don't know them well enough because you've spent a week with them. Uh, but that's, I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. I'm pretty good at separating those things as well.
Frankly, on Dhar Mann, I usually don't even remember what their names are at the end of the week.
So, method versus Meisner versus classical. Now, let's debate different acting techniques and their impact. Callie, tell me about um, have you done Meisner or classical acting?
I have done. Sorry, I'm trying to get my charger. Um, my laptop's about to die. I have done some Meisner when I was initially a theater major in high school. I think there's parts of every technique that will be helpful for you or will really strike a chord with you, and I think there's parts of every technique that just won't. Um, and I found that the best thing to do is I feel like I get too in my head trying to adhere too closely to anyone else's method. I like to take the parts that resonate with me and leave the parts I don't, and kind of use an amalgamation of all of them to make my own method.
How about you, Angelina?
I'm a big fan of the opposite of method acting, which is taking your own experiences and using them to relate to what your character is going through rather than physically putting yourself with what through what they're going through. I think it's a good way to personalize things and to inject a piece of yourself into your characters to make them that more realistic and natural to you would be to take from things you've already experienced and use them to feel the same emotions that your character is feeling. I think that's a pretty influential way to make your character a little more grounded.
What about okay, let's talk about voice and movement. Now, what are the tools actors use to embody roles physically and vocally? For instance, Angelina, let's start with you. What tools would you use to embody roles like physically, vocally, how to cry, how to get angry? How do you do that?
Um, I used a lot of that technique when I was doing musical theater just because everything needs to be a lot bigger and the characters you're playing aren't real, so things are a lot more animated in the way you move your arms, the way you carry yourself, how loud your voice is, what your voice sounds like. I have a pretty naturally kiddish sounding voice, so I have to go through many vocal techniques, especially if I'm playing somebody that's evil, to make myself sound not so kind and a little more conniving. But it's just it depends on what you're doing. It's hard to conceptualize that when you're talking about people and you're playing actual people and you're playing like a high schooler, you're playing, somebody's girlfriend, you're still a person, so it's weird to contort yourself in a way that's not natural to what a person would actually do.
I'd be interested in knowing how you cry. Like if you were to cry, like I've heard from several people how they learn to cry. I know one said just don't cry. It'll come. One said, think of someone who had passed away and how it makes you feel. How about you? What would you, if you had to cry, how would you do it?
Um, I develop triggers. Like there's things that I think of that automatically just make my heart sink, and that's a way to go about it. Sometimes it comes naturally if you're really invested in the scene and you understand it well enough and you're really in your character, it kind of can come out naturally. Yeah, but forcing it isn't gonna work. If you force it, it's just gonna you're not gonna get any tears going. You gotta really lock in, meditate.
What about you, Callie, when you played that evil schoolgirl who wanted to beat up on that poor cheerleader? What tools would you use to embody the roles physically and vocally to become that person?
I mean, I think for her specifically, I'm not the kind of person who is very angry in general. I'm definitely not violent. I tend to kind of direct my negative feelings inwards rather than outwards, but that doesn't mean I can't understand why people would direct their anger outwards. I think I tried to just feel the tension in my body, kind of try to make myself feel like I was like so tense that I was like bursting, and like imagine just what it would be like to, be someone that feels like they can't really contain. Like, I'm the good thing about being an actor when you're a teenager is you're close enough to your childhood that you can still remember, being angry enough that you want to hit your siblings, even if you're, not doing that as an adult. Um, but yeah, and I mean, in terms of crying, I agree with Angelina. I think forcing it never works. I've heard a lot of people tell me to just think about the worst moment of my life, but I'm the kind of person who, when I think about the worst moments of my life, or when I get really upset, I tend to shut down. I tend to go blank. So I need to think about
Oh,
things that are mildly upsetting. It really helps if you've been dumped recently. Or if you can just keep your eyes open long enough, like if you really can't get tears to come emotionally, you can get tears to well up physically just by staring, not blinking, yawning with your mouth closed, like raising your soft palate. Or I recently got a tear stick to try and mostly only succeeded in
oh
burning my
wow.
eyeballs, but believe me, I didn't stop crying for a while. I think I used too much.
Does it work?
Yeah, I mean it's actually right here. It looks like clear lipstick and it's just like straight up menthol. It's like if you've ever used Vapor Rub,
Oh wow.
it's like putting it
Wow.
under your eyes. Yeah, it'll definitely make you cry and it'll make your whole face burn and will make you blink way too much in your auditions.
Oh wow. Angelina, what do you use? Onions? You cut up onions, right?
No, I just like stare at a wall for like 30 minutes and call it a day. That should be good enough.
Well, you can get a lot of info from her. How much of well, how much actually, Callie, how much of Callie are in your characters? Or do you try to separate it?
No, I mean I try to make characters completely my own. Like I try to, if I'm auditioning for something, I try to take the character and make it as close to me or put the most genuine parts of me that I possibly can into it because I feel like that's how it comes off the most naturally. I feel like if I'm thinking too much into trying to be someone I'm not, I start getting too in my head and I get too removed from the scene. I start kind of seeming fake, and that doesn't work for every character. I don't end up booking the things that aren't meant for me, but I'm okay with that, honestly. I think it's a lot easier just to kind of try to connect as much of yourself to the character as you can.
I love those answers. Um, so what are about the audition strategies? Now, tips, horror stories, and what makes a memorable audition?
Well, I think my best audition tips are just auditioning. It's mostly self taping now. And I think self taping versus acting when you're on set, they sound pretty similar because, you're on camera, but it feels like a completely different skill set. Um, and just self tape consistently. It's the kind of thing that just requires practice. Um, I don't think I've ever made a tape better by doing the same scene more than 3 times. So try to know your lines or at least have them up somewhere where you can see them and just get a good take in and go with your like natural instincts in the first one and then refine it a little bit in the second one. And I feel like the second take is usually the one I use. In terms of horror stories, I don't feel like I've had any truly awful auditions just because they've all been on self tapes. I think I had one audition one time for one of those shows. I think it was like 911, where you were supposed to be like in the scene, the person was hanging upside down. They were trapped and the firefighters were supposed to be getting them down. I was like 18 years old and I spent a long time trying to figure out how to hang myself upside down into that audition. I think I fell on my head a lot of times.
How about you, Angelina? Do you have any like tips or horror stories besides upside down?
Um,
Like what makes a memorable audition for you?
I think that you should definitely always wear shoes when you're doing self tapes. Don't ever self tape barefoot or in your socks because you'll feel like you're at home filming a self tape and you want to feel like you're there performing. Present yourself the way that you would present yourself if the casting directors were sitting in front of you, sort of thing. I had a callback for a Netflix show one time, but I also had a bursted blood vessel behind my eye, so I had to film
Oh,
it at the optometrist, and
oh wow.
I completely lost connection during said callback, and I didn't get the job. So
Would that be considered one of your horror stories? Did you? Hello, Angelina. Was that one of your horror stories you might consider?
Angelina, can you hear us?
I can't hear the host. I can only hear Callie.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's like,
I mean, I can answer for her. I think that was definitely one of her horror
yes, it
stories.
was. Thank you. What?
you mean you can't hear me,
I guess she can.
Angelina? Angelina, you can't hear me.
I can hear
Why?
you.
Wait a minute. I said you can't hear me, and you said no, I can't. So you did hear me.
No, I said it too.
What's going on? Did you mute your mic? No.
No, because I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Shoot. Now I'm getting feedback. Shoot.
Well, as long as she can hear me, if you keep asking questions, I can just repeat them.
Angelina, are you playing with me? You
I can
seriously
hear you
can't hear
now.
me?
You're back, but for a good second you were not.
Yes. Thank you.
I know Angelina very well, and I know when her blank stare is genuine. And that
I'm gonna keep. I'm gonna keep this part. Do both of you have any tips about audition strategies? Like, what would be one tip for you, Kelly, to give to people who want to self tape?
Um, uh, I mean, I think my best tip is just what I said before. It's never going to get better after more than 3 takes. I remember being a brand new baby actor and thinking I needed to do 15 takes of every scene. And at that point, you're just like beating a dead horse. Memorize it if you at all can. It'll always be better and more natural if you're memorized. And if you're not fumbling through your lines on the first few takes. Just yeah, and make sure do like a test run beforehand to make sure your eye line's okay and your frame is okay and your lighting's okay. Like there's nothing worse than getting an amazing take acting wise and then realizing it's just unusable because of something technical.
So you mentioned about these self tapes and virtual auditions. Like you said, the game has changed post pandemic. What about before? It was all just live, right? You would just have to go to the office and do your auditions.
E-
Only
Now
as
you
like I
can't.
can answer that. I didn't start acting till 22.
Yeah, it was I would
Right.
go out from Riverside to Los Angeles basically every weekend and they would hold auditions in casting offices and you walk in and you see like 10 other women that look exactly like you and you're like, well, I guess I gotta do my best. But it's definitely way more intimidating than doing self-tapes because the people that are gonna cast you are sitting right in front of you. And I think it really sharpened my teeth for self-tapes because now I kind of just knock these out because I had experience with going into a casting office and having everybody just blank staring at me for 30 minutes. But yeah, it's not the normal anymore. Now it's purely self-taping all the time.
Self taping is so nice because you can take all the time you need beforehand to like get into it. The one and only in person commercial audition I've ever done, I went in there, and you go into the room and you're meeting the casting director and you want to make a good impression. So you're smiling and you're being chipper and you're like, "Hi, my name's Callie. It's so nice to meet you." And they're like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Okay, start." And then you're just supposed to like start sobbing. Like, I can't do that. Major kudos to you if you can, but I can't. I need at least 30 seconds that they're not going to give you.
Is there something that you wish you knew about your agents, your managers, or casting directors that you can share with those who are trying to break into the industry?
I would say that keep in mind that these people want to see you succeed and they don't want to see you fail, and you shouldn't feel embarrassed to try things. And I think if you feel kind of silly, you're probably doing something right. And nobody's like watching you hoping that you are terrible or thinking that you are. They're trying to look for your potential, not perfection.
Mhm. I think a really great tip in terms of working with your representation is you should find people that you trust. You should find people that you work well with, but you also shouldn't rely on them too much. I might just be a control freak, but there is no part of my own career that I want to like completely designate to anyone else. I want to at least have an understanding of how to get myself auditions and how to get myself work. Um, and I think a lot of jobs come from, especially in voiceover. I do a lot of voiceover, and I've actually never done a voiceover audition before. Um, when I book voiceover jobs. Like, I just booked a new voiceover Netflix series regular, and it was literally just given to me by a director I already work with. So know that your reps are a really great asset and hopefully are a really great part of your team, but you can also get yourself a lot of great opportunities outside of that.
So, what about EPKs, electronic press kits? If someone came up to you and said, "I want to break into the industry, I want to be an actor," what is the first thing you would tell them,
I honestly have an
Angelina?
EPK.
I don't know what an EPK is.
It's an electronic
Electronic
press
press
kit.
kit.
What is
Yeah, it has your website, it has your YouTube channel, it has your
Oh,
social media, it has your
okay. There's a
bio,
term for that.
photos of
Got
yourself.
it.
Yeah, EPK.
Um, I always say that there's no kind of right way to go about entering the industry. A lot of people find their footing in different ways, but one thing you need to have is headshots. So go do that. Background work is good for if you're just starting out, so you can find your footing on set, what terms mean, what it means to be in front of a camera, and then just go from there.
What about you, Callie? You have an EPK?
I don't have an EPK. I mean, that's the kind of thing I, if I were to get a publicist, I think I would leave that up to them. But up until the point where I feel like I need a publicist, I wouldn't really have much use for an EPK. I mean, I think, like Angelina said, it's great to have up to date pictures that I can send out to people. I try to keep my social media handles consistent across all platforms so that they're easy to give out. But frankly, I don't have enough press to put into a press kit.
And do you, Angelina, do you post constantly on your social media or do you just kind of
I
sometimes?
definitely try to, but I'm not as good about it as other people are.
Like
Yeah,
Callie here.
Callie's the best.
Oh, Callie hasn't posted in about a year. No, I haven't
Oh,
posted.
really?
No, I haven't posted since January. I mean, keep in mind, I'm a full time student, I'm a full time law clerk, and I'm a full time actor. And that's about all the time I have.
So do you think, Callie, that once you become a lawyer that you're going to be able to do more acting or do you think you might eventually get a gig where you're an actual lawyer, maybe in the show, the movie, or whatever?
I think that would be fun. I've always loved crime shows and legal shows. Criminal Minds is like my all time favorite
Mm,
show, and I'd love to
yeah.
do something like that. I intend to hold off on choosing between acting and law for as long as possible. I have a friend who was a child actor and kind of made the same decision to
Mm.
switch to law. And she did voiceover throughout law school, but you don't really have the time to film a show during law
Mhm.
school. Um, so I'm hopeful that I can maybe do the same thing because voiceover is a great source of income with pretty minimal hours. But I mean, yeah, ultimately, I think once I become a lawyer, I want to be a DA. I want to keep doing what I'm doing in this clerkship. And I think at that point, acting would kind of be retired.
What about you, Angelina?
You know what? I'm figuring it out.
Do you think you're going to leave acting for law,
You know what?
Angelina?
Yeah, it's always been my dream to be a lawyer. And I think if worst comes to worst, I'm gonna have to leave my dream behind. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm getting my degree in marketing, but purely so that I can find a cushy remote job and keep doing acting for as long as I live. That's my plan. Mhm.
why not? Definitely. So what how do you girls stay creatively fulfilled so you don't get bored of acting?
I mean, I've never been a particularly, I can't talk anymore, particularly creative person. So it's not too hard for me. I do love to have some variety, but I think even just Dhar Mann in and of itself, you're always getting a new character. You're always getting to explore something new. And just between acting and voiceover, there's such different worlds, and acting and law, those are such different worlds. I definitely feel like I have enough variety.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if are any of you in the union or are you non-union?
I think I'm gonna have to join next week. I'm
Yeah,
serious.
really.
I'm a must join, and I'm about to start my next SAG project on Monday. And they asked for all my personal information for a Taft Hartley, so I think they might finally have me back to do a corner.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask about the pros and cons and the personal experiences, but I guess we'll have to wait till our next one. How about you, Angelina? I know you're not on
No,
union.
I'm eligible, but I am holding off.
We're just at
Yeah.
a point in the industry right now where the vast majority of the work opportunities are non-union. The verticals are getting really popular right now, and they pay very, very well. Um, I think the only thing I would even consider joining for at this point would be voiceover, and that would kind of be against my will. I'd rather stay non-union.
So, what about ever thought of creating your own scripts like indie films, web series, or theater collectives? Have any of you thought of doing your own little film script, or you rather just leave
Um,
that to professionals,
I write
maybe?
a lot personally. I like to write my own monologues and perform them, and I'm developing one into a bit of a tiny feature. My brother works in sound. He's a boom operator, and his all of his friends are film guys. So it's kind of like, why not use the resources around me and create things and cast myself if nobody else is going to? Might as well.
Like I
Callie?
said, I went to school for film production in high school, um, and I loved being behind the camera. But if that taught me anything, it was how much money and how many resources go into creating your own projects. And I don't think it would have been at all feasible if most of that hadn't been provided by the school. In terms of writing, I'm great at argumentative writing, at legal writing. I am god awful at creative writing. So I don't think anybody would want to see a script from me. I will leave that to the professionals or even kindergartners. It would probably make something more appealing with me.
Yeah, they should do a Dhar Mann episode called for you, Callie. Said legal eagle lawyer goes back to kindergarten.
Have you seen the Legal Eagle YouTube channel where that lawyer, he's like a defense attorney, and he like reviews portrayals of like courtroom scenes and
Yeah,
entertainment for their
I've seen the
actors?
one.
Have you
I
seen the
saw
one
the
for
one that
Dhar Mann? He said it was the
I
worst
saw
one
the
he'd
one
ever seen, and I agree.
lawyer being lawyered.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, I
that
saw
channel.
that
I
one.
think it's so fun. But yeah, the Dhar Mann one was egregious.
I
I'd
know.
love to do a redo and coach them on how to
Why don't
get
you start your own YouTube channel and do that?
that would be fun.
You know what? You know what Vanessa did? She on her. You're probably part of the Instagram she has, but she critiqued her own Mean Girl one in the restaurant,
Oh my gosh, Kiana does that
and
too. Do you know
and
Kiana
she was like
Washington?
going like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." That was good.
It's so funny.
That was awesome. Yeah. So I want to ask both of you about handling rejection, like coping mechanisms and staying motivated. So like obviously you both were rejected at one time. How did that feel mentally and emotionally?
Um, I think it sucks. There's like not a nice way to put it. It's not nice to be told to your face that you're just like not good enough or you don't look like what we think the character should look like. Um, but I'm a really big fan of an underdog story. And they used to say very poor things about Tom Brady. And now he's like the greatest quarterback of all time. And so I think rejection is redirection, and you're never gonna end up where you're not supposed to be. And it's entirely okay. Whatever is meant for you will not miss you. So any opportunity that you thought you had in the bag and it went to somebody else, just know there's something else on the other side of the door waiting for you, and you just gotta keep plugging along because you don't want to miss out on something later because you gave up too soon.
Yeah, I think early on when I first started acting, I got really attached to every audition I did, and I thought a lot about them afterwards and wondered if I'd book them. After a few years, it just kind of reached the point where it was like I filmed an audition, I sent it off, and I forgot about it, which is really just what you have to learn to do. And I think one of the things that helped with that was finding interest outside of acting, so it wasn't my entire life. And also just coming to understand and spending enough time in the industry that I could see firsthand that it's not necessarily about how good you are at acting. Usually it has more to do with what you look like and who else you look like that they're casting. Maybe your eyes are the wrong color, maybe it's something entirely out of your control. And like Angelina said, what's meant for you will come to you. And yeah.
Yeah, that's true. What about balancing art and life, like relationships, family, and finding time for yourself?
um
Angelina, you want to answer that
I
one?
still don't know. You can always make time for the people that you want to make time for. Being an actress can be intimidating to, partners. And so, um, you know, just gotta kind of keep swimming.
Callie?
I mean, look, when all I did was acting and I wasn't in college and I wasn't working at the DA's office, I thought that I had no time to do anything else. I thought acting was taking over my entire life, and oh boy, was I proven wrong. I do acting and I'm a full time student and doing a full time legal internship. There's always more time. You just might crash and burn. So you got to be careful. You got to watch out for that. But I think, um, like Angelina said, if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. I think um, balance is just the key.
I'm going to throw this one out, and one of you can, it's whoever wants to answer or whatever, or you can argue like the sparks fly. Is acting a talent or a
Hard
skill?
work beats talent when talent doesn't work, I will say. If you want to be good at acting, you can train yourself for sure. When I got to Los Angeles and did my first on-screen class, the critique I got was that I was too animated because I came from a theatrical background. So there's always way to hone in on your skills and to become better. Do people have like a natural knack for things? Sure, but that shouldn't discourage you. It should just make you want to work harder because you can get there too.
I think it's a combination. I think there's some people who can't even give a natural line read. I've learned. Like my mom is one of those people. I can't even have her be a reader for my auditions because I feel like if you have never done any acting before, but someone gives you a sentence to say and you can't say it like you're not a robot, like you can't just say it like normal, like genuinely with feeling, like that that's going to be tough to overcome. I think you can overcome anything with enough practice, but I think some people have more of a natural ability to just give a natural reading of something, and some people don't start off with that. But I think there's a lot of different techniques and a lot of things that can be honed. I think when it comes to acting on camera, I haven't done a lot of theater, but acting on camera, it's certainly a technical skill in a lot of ways. You're dealing with a lot of equipment, you're learning to, cheat out to the camera, you're learning continuity, you're learning, just how to like stay in your light properly. There's all kinds of things that I think you need to get acquainted with on a technical level to act on camera well. And I mean, there's certain things that you do have to learn from experience. Like you have to kind of see yourself fail. Like we talked about trying to force tears earlier. The first time you try to force yourself to cry on camera, you're going to regret it when you see that project come out because you're going to see yourself looking ridiculous. There's things like that, or like, I mean, there's plenty of technical skills that go into it, but I do think that you can start off either advantaged or disadvantaged based on your ability to give a natural line read.
Yeah, I remember I wanted to redo. Was it Twilight? It was a scene from Twilight where he's mourning over the death of his girlfriend. So he was crying, and I said I can never do that scene. And suddenly I remember it was my mother's death anniversary. So I started crying, and I said, "Oh, wait a minute! This is the great time to do it." So pouring over my tears of, she's gone. I can't believe it's been this many years. I did the scene with somebody else, and it worked out. But it's not going to happen all the time,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So, but okay, here's something for you: stage
Stage
versus
versus screen,
screen.
is
Which
that what you said?
demands more from the actor?
Uh,
Yeah.
I think theater sharpens your teeth
How many
to
have you been on
become a more
stage?
versatile actor just because you have to dip your toes in every sort of medium. You have to know how to sing, dance, memorize an entire book, and perform it like every night, no redos. Just have to keep going. So I think in turn it makes you a better TV actor because those expectations are not held of you on a film set. I guess personally, theater is a lot harder, I would say. There's a lot more that goes into it than I think film does, but I mean, everything has its own challenges.
How about you, Callie? You've been on stage, I think, haven't you?
A few times. I certainly don't have as much theater experience as Angelina, but I mean, I think there's aspects of each that are probably just more tiring, like it's not abnormal to spend 14 hours on set when you're working on something on camera. And I feel like that's not your typical day in theater. But then again, when you're on set, you're not memorizing very much at a time, whereas like Angelina said, in theater you're memorizing an entire play or musical. I think theater's probably a lot more physically demanding, unless you're doing like a movie musical, and you get a lot of breaks in the middle of a filming day. There's a lot of sitting around. It kind of moves slow, but it is still really draining at the end of the day. And like I said, like 14 hours is not an uncommon day on set. Yeah, I mean, I think theater is probably just a whole lot all at once, like very physically exerting. More of a sprint, whereas filming feels a little bit more like a marathon.
I was thinking maybe because, like, I've been to several Shakespeare plays, and I know that when you're on the stage being Shakespeare, or whatever, you have people, rows of people watching you. It's a little nerve wracking. Like when I did a solo gig down here, it was 300 people in the audience, and I started shaking. So I was like this, oh, so you can't see that, the microphone. And but when you're in front of a camera, the only people that are there are your editor or your director. Everyone of It's less people, makes you feel less, nervous.
Mhm.
Except when people see you on TV, they're like, "Oh wow."
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like when you're on set, you're definitely, I mean, maybe the first few times I was nervous, and then when I work on something new, I'm still a little nervous. But something like Dhar Mann, where I've been there for 3 years, like I know all those people so well, it just feels like, I mean, it feels like a desk job at that point. Like you get in front of the camera and you don't think twice about it. Like I'm probably doing something stupid up until the second they call action.
She said it best.
Wow. Any other remarks about that?
She's not as crazy as I am on set. I'll
Cartwheels,
probably be
yeah.
doing like a weird little jig and like scream singing some random song from the 80s. I get really
Do you,
hyper
do you
on set. It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
I kind of like walk away from a day on set and I'm like, who put crack in my breakfast?
You want some? I got some other drug here. If you want, I can put it through the virtual.
I have so many people like that I hang out with outside of set for the first time be like, "Oh my gosh, you're so normal when you're not at work." Like,
Oh, I definitely did. She's a very different
thank
person when
you.
you're not in a
Yes.
scene with her, for sure.
Did you have that experience, Angelina?
Wow, we're almost through these things. This is excellent, terrific. Should actors be okay? I'm going to ask. Take a deep breath. Should
I think that
actors
you
be
can definitely
activists?
use your platform to leverage
Like the
causes
role
that
of
you care
artists
about and
in
that you're
social
knowledgeable
change.
about. I do think that there are better sources to go to for that sort of information. But I do think it's important that, as artists with people that are constantly watching us all the time and looking to see what we post, what we think, it is important to take a stance on things that matter.
I think, I think this debate tends to always be brought back to like whether or not you have an obligation to use a platform for good or to enact social change. But like Angelina said, I think really the issue is that like I think we're a society that has kind of moved away from critical thinking skills, and I think it's really important for people to learn on their own how to vet sources and how to formulate an informed opinion. When it comes to things like politics, I mean, actors aren't experts. Like, I don't understand the inclination to look towards your favorite actors or celebrities for political information or to be directed towards a political opinion when there are so many people who dedicate their lives to learning about those things. And I don't know. I just I don't think anybody should want to base their opinions on those of other people just because they like their public persona. I think they should be basing their opinions on the way that reliable information aligns with their own personal values. Um, and I think that that's best done outside the realm of like entertainment industry influence and idealizing the stances and opinions of the celebrities you like, if that makes sense.
So what about someone like Greta Thunberg? Like, do you believe in what she stands for? Climate change. How dare you?
I mean, of course, I believe in climate change and support all efforts to reverse the effects of climate change on the planet. And I think she is someone who has gained traction because, first and foremost, she's informed about and passionate about the causes that she stands for. Um, she's not like a public figure because she's an actor and then giving her opinion. She's someone who I would consider to be informed. Then again, I wouldn't necessarily take something at face value just because she said it. I would vet it on my own in the same way I would vet it on my own if it came from a media source. I would try to look at where that information came from, what studies there were to back that up, and get to the source of that information. I mean, I feel like working in the legal field, it's hard not to want to go really concretely back to the source of. I guess as someone who works in the legal field, I see all of this like I want to vote for someone because this person tells me to as like an equivalent to like hearsay, which is just never
Wow.
reliable. I always want to go back.
You
to
know,
the
I think it's
source.
important to
Wow.
look towards people
What
like
about
Greta
you, Angelina?
specifically
What do you
because
stand
she's an
for?
activist first. And there's no other thing that she's really known for. And I think with actors and performers, things can get a little muddy. And if you're really looking to make a change in the world and you got to be that change that you want to see, and it starts with you, it doesn't start with other people telling you, it starts with you and what you believe. And you, again, you really do got to go to the source. You got to do your research. You got to know where your money's going, where you want it to go, where you want to be in terms of protests, things like that. You have to be the one to drive that change if that's what you want.
Wow, that's great. We have two more subjects here before
Um,
we do the big one. I want to ask those about your
I
toolbox.
think
Like, what's one
well, I
technique or
shot
ritual that you
something
swear
recently
by?
where I was supposed to be like
Just in
anxiety
general,
With
ridden and a depressed
acting or
person,
something?
and your emotions are unregulated if you don't sleep well. Your emotions regulate when you get your decent amount of sleep, so I will prevent myself from sleeping to portray that sort of thing and tap into those emotions easier, become more irritable.
Oh, wow. Seriously.
that is hysterical because genuinely before you even
It's
started talking,
situational.
the
It's
first thing that popped
situational.
into my head was like, you've got to make sure you get a good night's sleep. Like that's the most important thing. You're not going to be able to do well on set if you're sleep deprived. It is situational. I agree. There's some mornings where I skip my anxiety medication if I know I'm going to need to be a crying wreck for a scene, which is probably not healthy. But
Wow. Now I want to talk about the one last subject here, and I know that Callie, you said you're going to be part of the SAG after, but Angelina, you don't know whether you want to or not, so I can eliminate all these questions.
Uh,
But it was about the SAG after strike. But I'm not going to talk to you about the things that you're not involved in. Was there a writer's strike for both of you? Like, so you were left without work for a while?
well, that was union work that was on strike. but I did move back to Nashville during that time and stay with my family. That went on from like May to November of 2023. Um,
Hmm.
so I took that
Um,
opportunity because auditions were pretty quiet to start college,
I was already
and
in
I think a
school, so
lot
I
of
guess
other
I
people
just
around my age
continued
who were
school
acting
and
did that too, and
let
I'm
it be
very glad
what
for
it
that.
was. That was sort of
That's great.
essential
How
for
about you,
that
Angelina?
guild
What
for
did
that
you
to
do during
happen.
the
There were
writer's strike?
rights that weren't being met and demands that weren't being met, and I think writers are very important. I think screenwriting is really like the backbone of
Ah,
cinema in
you
a
lucked
way,
out.
so I think it was important.
Yeah, when I read what the whole strike was for, one of them that really got me, you should read about it sometime, but there's one on the ethics of AI in performance, like the philosophical and practical implications of AI in acting. Do you think AI could ever ethically replace a human performance? Like, Callie, would you want your body scanned and then they'll just use your image in movies and Dhar Mann for the rest of your life, and all you do is sit down on the couch eating potato chips, watching football?
Well, is the question specifically, would I be okay with that ethically, or would I think that that would be a good replacement for a human acting performance?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, I don't think AI could ever fully replicate human emotion. Um, I think it's murky ethically. I think the law hasn't caught up to the developments in technology at all. I mean, I don't see an ethical issue if the person who is being scanned and their image is being reproduced gives their informed consent beforehand, um, because at the end of the day, your image is yours to license as you please. And if you understand the terms of the agreement and knowingly enter into it, then I would consider that to be ethical. But I don't think it's a good idea.
But you want your body scanned and say, we're going to put you in this in an action movie, Callie. You're going to be the Jane Bond of the movie, but it's not really you. It's just an AI image of you. I've seen AI movies. I've seen how you can put yourself in an AI movie. So you can literally see Kelly Walker going with a gun, shooting the enemies and cheerleaders and stuff. But
Well, I feel like that becomes an issue because, it may be your likeness, but it's not your performance. And so, what if the AI doesn't do well and it makes it appear as though you've done a really bad job acting? Defamation laws wouldn't cover that because they're not up to date with AI. Um, and so, essentially, your reputation could become really damaged by your likeness being used in a way that you think is a representation of you as untalented, or it could, maybe the dialogue is something you didn't like, or it could be used in the future in
Uh,
a way you don't
no, not
consent
without my
to. I mean,
consent. No,
it's
I would
just like a
not.
really
I'd much rather it be me,
dubious
my person, having that
gray area
experience.
that
I don't
you
think
know,
AI
I
can
wouldn't care to
replicate
venture into
the
that.
magic of cinema
what
and the
about you,
magic of
Angelina?
movies. I
Would you
think
want
what
your
makes
body
movies
scanned and
so
your
good
image
is
used in a
that we
movie
as
without
humans
your
produce
consent?
them, and we have heart and emotions and feelings, and we relate to things, and I think that's the beauty of it. And I don't think a robot can do as much. That's a big problem. That's an issue.
But both your images are on the internet, and you can easily take the best one of yours and use AI to create a video and have you say whatever we want you to say.
Yeah, that's where the ethical issue comes in, the lack of informed consent using someone's likeness. I mean, in every area that's already been legislated on, that's not permitted. You can't use someone's image or likeness without their consent unless it's already licensed for that. So I think we really need to catch up on that in terms of AI.
Yeah, have you seen those Instagram reels with the talking dogs or the babies talking in the podcast and Bigfoot and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I've seen
what's
some
going to
funny
prevent them?
ones. There's no
Yeah, the ones
denying
with
that it's great entertainment, but
the one with the dogs and cat in the podcast talking about like it's really amazing. What makes anybody like they can take Angelina, they can take you, Callie, put you in a podcast with Donald Trump, and he's talking to you. So anyway, next, do you think AI might be used responsibly in collaboration with actors?
for what purpose?
I mean, collaborator like this, like if can it be used responsibly, like if actors were to collaborate and say, okay, you can use my image, but only a certain point.
I mean, if, like I said, I think informed consent is really the key part of that. And I suppose if someone completely knew what they were entering into and that contract was honored as written, I don't see any ethical issue with someone licensing their own image for whatever they see fit.
Woo!
But I wouldn't do it.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing! I love this. Thank you so much for joining me for this Actors
Cheers.
Forum. I was going to ask if you'd be interested in doing something like this again later, near future,
Yeah, absolutely.
with more people, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
That would be
but yeah,
awesome.
I actually want to upload this actually pretty quickly because it's really, really fun. It was really fun to do. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining the and watching the Actors Forum with Callie Walker and Angelina Koerner for today anyway. And look forward to seeing you guys again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for
You're very
having
welcome.
us.
We're going to end this stream, everyone. Thank you so much. Any last words or just goodbye?
Thanks so much for tuning in, guys.